Have you ever wondered what it would be like if the darkest and sharpest mind of the Addams family was thrown into a school filled with mysteries, supernatural creatures, and deadly secrets?
Hey, freak. This is a close practice.
In Wednesday, the iconic character is reborn in an environment where her icy sarcasm and sharp wit are her greatest weapons to unravel a series of dark murders. Among werewolves, vampires, and puzzles that span generations, she must face not only external threats, but also the dark secrets of her own family. Get ready to enter the universe of Wednesday, where every step reveals a new mystery, and every glance hides a lurking danger. At the beginning of the episode, we find Wednesday in her old school. As she walks through the hallways, several kids move aside, keeping their distance. But that doesn't bother her one bit. She keeps moving forward, reflecting to herself about who had the brilliant idea of gathering so many teenagers in one place. Shortly after, Wednesday rescues her brother, who is tied up and locked inside a locker. At that moment, she experiences a sudden vision, revealing exactly who was responsible for that situation. Despite the discovery, she decides to keep the secret to herself and not tell her brother. Determined to settle the score, Wednesday goes after the boys who are at the school's swimming pool. Without any hesitation, she makes it very clear why she's there by carrying 2 bags full of piranhas. Without blinking, she dumps the fish into the water, ensuring a revenge that, for her, is more than fair. Even though she tasted the sweet satisfaction of revenge, Wednesday's extreme attitude earns her yet another expulsion to add to her long list of schools. The consequence, Wednesday and her family are now on their way to New Jersey. She's accompanied by her brother, her parents Gomez and Morticia Addams, and driven by the loyal and sturdy Lurch, the family's driver. The destination of their trip is Nevermore Academy, an exclusive boarding school for outcasts, where Gomez and Morticia once studied and lived a whirlwind romance. Wednesday's move to that place wasn't exactly her choice, it was a consequence of her actions. She was being accused of attempted murder, although she herself recalled she hadn't even finished the job. For ordinary people, that detail wouldn't make things any better. But for Wednesday, it was just another point of view. Meanwhile, a mystery was beginning to unfold around Nevermore. A young man, known for his love of hiking through the woods, had been brutally attacked. And that was just the first mystery of the series. What or who could have attacked that boy? Upon arriving at Nevermore Academy, Wednesday was greeted by Principal Larissa Weems, who, interestingly enough, had been Morticia's roommate back in their school days. The principal was visibly surprised to discover the number of institutions. Wednesday had attended 8 schools in just 5 years. But for Wednesday, that was hardly surprising. In her view, no school seemed capable of holding her for very long. Even so, Principal Weems decided to make an exception to accept her at Nevermore, but with one condition. Wednesday would have to attend therapy sessions with a psychologist. This wasn't a choice. It was a court order. When it was time to meet her roommate, Wednesday came face to face with Enid Sinclair, an energetic werewolf with a colorful style that completely contrasted with Wednesday's dark aura. Enid, always cheerful, tried to welcome her warmly, even extending her arms for a hug. However, Wednesday immediately took a step back, avoiding any contact. Enid, a bit surprised, listened as Wednesday sarcastically explained that she was allergic to color. She added that her skin got irritated and her flesh practically peeled off her bones when exposed to so much brightness. Enid then took Wednesday on a tour of Nevermore Academy, where she got the chance to meet the different groups of students that inhabited that unique place. The school was truly a refuge for peculiar young people, each belonging to a very distinct tribe. The main groups were divided into 4. The Vamps, who were vampires, some of whom had been at the school for decades. The Furs, composed of werewolves, the group to which Enid belonged. The Stoners, who were gorgons capable of petrifying with just a glance. And finally, the Scales, where the mermaids stood out. Among them was Bianca Barkley, the most popular girl in school. There was also Xavier Thorpe, a dark and troubled artist who was Bianca's ex-boyfriend. Their breakup remained a mystery to many, as no one knew exactly what had happened. During the tour, Enid introduced Wednesday to a Gorgon boy, who, in a not-so-discreet comment, admitted he believed Wednesday ate human flesh. Without losing her composure, she explained that actually the meat was just for her pets, drawing curious and suspicious looks from everyone around. Noticing that Wednesday wasn't exactly the type to fit in easily, Enid suggested she join a social network, like Snapchat, TikTok, or Instagram. But, as always, Wednesday had a sharp response ready, saying she thought social media was just an empty and insignificant convenient way to seek validation. After saying goodbye to her family, Wednesday received a special gift from Morticia. It was an ancestral amulet marked with her initials, which, according to her mother, would help strengthen her psychic connections. In addition, Morticia also left her a crystal ball so they could communicate the following weekend. It was the peculiar Addams way of staying in touch, even from a distance. Although the family wasn't exactly good at goodbyes, Gomez made sure that Wednesday wouldn't be completely alone at Nevermore. With a knowing look, he ordered Thing to accompany her and keep an eye on her, ensuring his daughter would always be safe, or at least as safe as any member of the Addams family could be. Meanwhile, the mystery surrounding the trail attack was deepening. The young man who had been attacked was found in pieces, a brutal scene that left everyone in shock. Sheriff Donovan Galpin was convinced that whoever or whatever was responsible for the attack wasn't human, and he strongly suspected there was some connection to Nevermore Academy. However, without concrete evidence, he found himself powerless to move forward with the investigation. Right after, Wednesday decided it was time to make some improvements to the room she shared with Enid. With a clear line drawn down the middle, she made it obvious that colors and joy were not part of her dark universe. On one side, Enid's vibrant rainbow, on the other, Wednesday's signature black and white. It didn't take long for her to meet Marilyn Thornhill, Nevermore's botany teacher. With an enigmatic smile, Marilyn welcomed Wednesday and took the opportunity to explain some of the school's rules. Later, during fencing class, Wednesday came face to face with Bianca Barclay, the most popular girl in school and a master of the sport. Without hesitation, Wednesday challenged her to a duel, and the two jumped into the fight. The match was fierce, and even though Wednesday was highly skilled, she proposed a military-style tiebreaker, a challenge that would only end when one of them bled. The fight was intense, but Bianca came out on top, landing a blow on Wednesday's face and drawing blood from her forehead. At that moment, it was clear. Bianca had officially become her first enemy at Nevermore. Although the cut on her face was small, the feeling of rivalry within Wednesday grew intensely. While recovering in the infirmary, she met Rowan Laszlo, a warlock who, even in a school full of outcasts, was still considered an outsider. The connection between the two was almost instant, as they both shared the same sense of displacement and misunderstanding in that peculiar environment. After leaving the infirmary, Wednesday was walking through Nevermore's hallways when suddenly a gigantic gargoyle broke loose and almost crushed her. The incident seemed like a deadly trap, but she was saved at the last second by Xavier, the mysterious student. Interestingly, the two already knew each other from a distant past when Wednesday had saved his life from being cremated alive in a traumatic event. A very unexpected coincidence. Later, Wednesday discovered that Thing had been spying on her every move. Wasting no time, she captured him and, in her unique style, threatened to break some of his delicate fingers and lock him in a drawer for the rest of the semester if he didn't swear absolute loyalty to her. Faced with the situation and Wednesday's rather convincing threats, Thing quickly surrendered, making a gesture of fidelity. From that moment on, he was officially under Wednesday's command, and for his first mission, she already had a plan. Thing would help her escape from Nevermore. Wednesday's first escape attempt began with a well-thought-out plan to fool both Principal Larissa Weems and her therapist, Dr. Valerie Kinbot. Pretending to cooperate with the therapy session, Wednesday asked to go to the bathroom, and with Thing's help, managed to discreetly slip out of the office. While walking through the streets, she bumped into a man carrying a box of tomatoes, triggering one of her visions. In the vision, she witnessed the man being brutally attacked. Shaken but determined to continue with her plan, Wednesday moved forward and entered a local coffee shop. At the local coffee shop, Wednesday met Tyler Galpin, the barista and son of the sheriff. Tyler was trying to fix an espresso machine, but without much success. To his surprise, Wednesday showcased her skills in Italian, reading the machine's instructions and helping him fix it. The speed with which she solved the problem left Tyler impressed. The situation got even more interesting when three teenagers entered the cafe and started mocking Wednesday for being an outcast from Nevermore. What they didn't know was that she was extremely skilled in martial arts. In just a few moves, Wednesday took down all three with ease, leaving Tyler even more amazed by her abilities. But the surprises didn't stop there. Moments later, Sheriff Donovan Galpin showed up, and upon discovering she was an Addams, he didn't hide his disdain. He made it very clear how much he hated Gomez, Wednesday's father, accusing him of being a murderer. After the failed escape attempt, Wednesday was quickly captured by Principal Weems, who didn't hesitate to bring her back to Nevermore. On the way back, something unexpected happened. Wednesday felt a strange sensation, recalling the vision she had earlier of a man being being brutally attacked, and she discovered that her vision had become reality when, as they passed through a part of town, she noticed that the man from her vision had indeed been attacked, exactly as she had foreseen. His neck was broken, just as the premonition had shown. That same night, as Wednesday demonstrated her surprising talent on the cello, Rowan, the outcast warlock from Nevermore, began acting suspiciously. The dark melody played by Wednesday echoed through the hallways, revealing yet another of her exceptional skills, while the atmosphere of the school seemed to grow even thicker and more mysterious. Later, Wednesday had the chance to learn more about Enid's personal struggles. During the conversation, Enid shared her frustration over not being able to transform into a wolf, even during full moons. To her, it was a huge problem, something that left her feeling down and worried. If the situation continued, there was a real chance she could be expelled from her pack, a fate she deeply feared. Curious, Enid asked Wednesday if she was really so cold that she never shed a tear. Wednesday, without hesitation, replied that she had only cried once in her entire life, the day her pet scorpion Nero was killed. Since then, she promised herself and the world that she would never cry again. Still, in the first episode, a lot happened. Thing, on a determined mission, went to Tyler to convince him to call Wednesday. The situation was surreal for Tyler, who was amazed by the fact that Wednesday had a completely independent pet hand. He thought it was awesome, although he couldn't hide his shock. The reason for the call was clear. Wednesday was determined to escape from Nevermore and needed Tyler's help to do it. She explained that during the Harvest Festival in Jericho, she would find the perfect opportunity to flee the town. The plan seemed promising, but there was a major obstacle in her way: Principal Larissa Weems, who never took her eyes off her. But for Wednesday, challenges were merely opportunities for creativity, and that's exactly what happened. With an unusual disguise, a giant panda costume, she managed to throw Principal Weems off her trail and put her plan into action. The escape was underway, and Wednesday was more determined than ever to uncover the mysteries surrounding Nevermore. After successfully evading Principal Weems with the giant panda disguise, Wednesday met up with Tyler, who handed her a file about Gomez Adams' past. According to Tyler, that document might explain the sheriff's deep hatred for her father. Curious, Wednesday devoted herself to unraveling the secrets hidden in that file. Right after, a real chase began. Wednesday needed to get to the train station while trying to escape the teenagers she had fought with at the coffee shop. The pursuit was intense, but something even stranger happened along the way. Wednesday was overtaken by another one of her visions. This time she saw Rowan, the outcast warlock, being brutally attacked. Without thinking twice, she ran to find him and try to warn him about what she had seen. But she was met with an unexpected surprise. Instead of thanking her for the concern, Rowan attacked her, revealing an old drawing. She then discovered that the drawing had been made by Morticia Adams 25 years ago when she was still a student at Nevermore. According to him, Morticia was a powerful seer and had predicted that a girl would be responsible for the destruction of the school and everyone who lived there, and Rowan was convinced that the girl was Wednesday. But before he could do anything to her, a monstrous creature emerged from the shadows. The beast was gigantic, with a terrifying appearance and overwhelming strength. In a matter of seconds, it attacked Rowan and eliminated him right in front of Wednesday, who stood frozen, unable to comprehend what she had just witnessed. Amid all the chaos, one question kept echoing in Wednesday's mind: why did the monster spare her? Instead of attacking, it simply vanished, leaving behind an even greater mystery to be solved. Shortly after, Wednesday received a call from her mother, Morticia, who eagerly asked how her first week at Nevermore had been. Hearing the question, Wednesday quickly revisited all the intense events of the past few days. She had escaped death twice, discovered her father might be a murderer, learned that she was supposedly destined to destroy the school and everyone in it, and had mysteriously been spared by a killer monster. All these extreme situations gave Wednesday a new perspective on Nevermore. For the first time, she admitted to her parents that maybe that place wasn't so bad after all. In fact, Wednesday confessed that she would probably love studying there. To her, Nevermore was a true stage for mysteries and challenges, exactly the kind of environment that made her dark heart beat a little faster. The next day, Wednesday was called in to give a statement to the sheriff, as she was the only witness to what happened to Rowan. However, Principal Larissa seemed far from convinced by her version of events. And, in a very suspicious turn of events, as soon as Wednesday left the room, Rowan showed up, seemingly in perfect condition. This not only left Wednesday filled with doubts, but also put her in a complicated spot to explain what she had witnessed. On the other hand, Wednesday's therapist seemed increasingly convinced that she was even more out of touch with reality than she had imagined. Strangely enough, the only person who seemed to believe believe her story was Tyler, who somehow seemed certain that the monster really had taken Rowan's life. Meanwhile, Enid was thrilled to hear that Wednesday would be staying at Nevermore, as the idea of being alone in the room didn't appeal to her at all. Plus, Thing gave amazing massages, which was definitely a bonus for her. But the real reason for Wednesday's decision to stay at the school was clear. She wanted to solve that mystery once and for all, and avoid being labeled as the girl who invents murders. The starting point for Wednesday's investigation was the strange symbol drawn by Rowan. It was through that symbol that she intended to begin connecting the pieces of the mystery. But things got even more confusing when Rowan was expelled from Nevermore, and according to Principal Larissa, he would be leaving on the first train in the afternoon. To make matters worse, the principal was convinced that Wednesday had the same condition as her mother, hallucinations about things that didn't exist. As part of her rehabilitation, Larissa forced Wednesday to sign up for an extracurricular group and handed her a list of various options. However, the choir group was led by Bianca, and just the thought of it made Wednesday hit such a high note that only dogs could hear, shattering even the glass in the principal's office. Meanwhile, the archery group was run by Xavier Thorpe, who seemed to have a certain interest in Wednesday, but she only wanted to know about Rowan, and honestly, there wasn't much to learn there since her aim was already impeccable. Still, there was one last option that could serve both as a way to escape the principal's watchful eye and to investigate further: beekeeping. In the beekeeping club, Wednesday met Eugene, a lonely and somewhat awkward boy who seemed a bit out of place. He ended up being the key for Wednesday to track down Rowan. Amidst the chaos of departure, she ordered Thing to follow him to the station, where he found Rowan just about to leave, but something was off. He seemed nervous, distant, different. Driven by curiosity, Thing followed him into the bathroom, and that's when the truth came out. To his surprise, Rowan transformed into another man, and it wasn't just any man, it was Principal Larissa, who secretly had the power to shapeshift into other people. As soon as Thing returned to the school and informed Wednesday that he had lost track of the person at the station, she scolded him for missing such an important opportunity. During botany class, Xavier tried to impress Wednesday with a detailed charcoal drawing of a spider. However, for her, venomous creatures were nothing extraordinary. After all, she was more than used to them at home. That class actually served to show Bianca that she had finally found a worthy rival. Wednesday gave an impressive display of knowledge by explaining with precision about one of the carnivorous plants, leaving everyone stunned. After class, Wednesday realized she might have been too harsh and decided to apologize to Thing. She knew he was sensitive, and at that moment he was the only family she truly had nearby. During their conversation, she took the opportunity to share with him the mysterious drawing, mentioning her theory that it might symbolize an end to Nevermore. With sincerity, she expressed her trust in Thing, who, in turn, offered all the support she needed, showing that she was not alone on this journey. The next day, Wednesday asked Enid to cover for her extracurricular activity, giving her the chance to continue with her investigations. Once again, her steps led her to the forest, where she ran into Tyler. While exploring the area, they stumbled upon Rowan's glasses, triggering another one of Wednesday's visions. This time, the image revealed a mysterious purple book, and surprisingly, determined to continue her investigation, Wednesday began with the library and then moved on to the boys' dormitory. There, she made an intriguing discovery. Xavier had sketched a portrait of her in his sketchbook. As she searched the room, she found a mask hidden under Rowan's bed, further deepening the mystery. Just as she was about to leave, she was startled by the sound of a door opening. Instinctively, she hid and ended up witnessing Bianca entering Xavier's room. During their conversation, Wednesday discovered that Bianca planned to take down Ophelia Hall during the upcoming Canoe Polo Cup, which would take place the next day. Armed with this information, Wednesday decided she would participate in the competition. To do so, she spoke with Enid, making it clear that her goal was to show Bianca what it was like to have a true rival. But of course, for that to work, Wednesday knew she needed a well-structured plan. Determined, and with her sharp eye for detail, she began outlining each step to surprise Bianca at the Canoe Polo Cup. On the day of the competition, Wednesday showed up dressed as a cat, leaving Enid completely thrilled with the unusual choice. But as always, what truly stood out about Wednesday were her sharp responses. In a moment of pure honesty, she didn't miss the chance to jab at Bianca, firmly stating that she didn't consider herself better than everyone, but she definitely thought she was better than Bianca. That declaration, made face-to-face, made it clear she was there to compete on equal footing and without any fear of confrontation. The competition, known as the Edgar Allan Poe Cup, a nod to the name Nevermore, had always seen Bianca as the reigning champion. As a siren, she dominated the previous editions, but not just because of her natural abilities. The real reason behind her victories was constant sabotage, with the help of a Scale, a mermaid boy who secretly sank the competitors' boats. However, this time, Bianca Bianca wasn't counting on Wednesday's sharp wit, who was already aware of her tricks. To level the playing field, Wednesday counted on the help of Thing, who not only captured the mermaid boy but also distracted another group, ensuring a strategic advantage for her team. During the race, when she reached the crypt to grab the flags, Wednesday was hit by yet another vision. This time, she came face to face with a copy of herself, who revealed that she was the key to something much bigger. Even though she was intrigued, Wednesday didn't lose her focus and sprinted toward the final stretch of the competition. In the final stage, Bianca's Goldens faced off against Enid's Black Cats. Under normal circumstances, Enid and her team would have likely been defeated once again, if it weren't for the presence of Wednesday Addams. With the agile help of Thing, they managed to turn the tide, sinking the Goldens' boat. For the first time, Enid and her team celebrated victory, proving that with Wednesday by their side, even the most predictable outcomes could be changed. Amid the victory celebration, Wednesday was caught off guard by a revelation from Principal Weems. During their conversation, she discovered that the last time Ophelia Hall had won the cup was when her mother was the team captain. To make things even more surprising, the principal revealed that back then, she herself had been the co-pilot of the team. This discovery made Wednesday see the competition in a new light, connecting her even more with her family's legacy. Despite this surprising revelation, Wednesday's focus remained firmly on her investigations. Determined to follow every clue, she discovered a symbol carved into the Edgar Allan Poe statue, which led her to find a hidden passage behind the monument. Walking through the path, she stumbled upon a mysterious room belonging to Nevermore's secret society, the Nightshade Society. Inside the room, Wednesday spotted the mysterious book that had appeared in her vision, noticing that some of its pages had been ripped out. However, before she could explore further, her exit was cut short. Wednesday was captured, leaving the mystery even darker and her questions unanswered, at least for now. Even though Wednesday had been captured, with a hood covering her face and her arms tied with ropes, she didn't seem the least bit worried. Why? She quickly realized that her captors were actually members of a select elite group from Nevermore, the secret society called the Nightshade Society. Wednesday, however, was far from impressed. In her eyes, that group was nothing more than a bunch of amateurs who didn't even know how to pull off a proper kidnapping. To prove it, she freed herself from the ropes while they were still in the middle of their failed attempts to intimidate her. Xavier Thorpe, one of the members of the group, was visibly disappointed. After all, he was the one who had extended the invitation for Wednesday to join the society. The next day, it was time for Nevermore to interact with the Pilgrims of Jericho, an annual event where the students participated in volunteer activities in the town. But while everyone was focused on their tasks, Wednesday remained deeply immersed in her investigation into Rowan's mysterious disappearance. For her, there was no doubt he was dead. During the conversation, Xavier ended up revealing an important clue by showing a book to Wednesday. The photo of a man printed on one of the pages caught her attention. Joseph Crackstone, the founder of Jericho, a well-known historical figure in the town, but now someone who sparked Wednesday's sharp curiosity. For Wednesday, that day of interaction was the perfect opportunity to dig deeper into the dark past of the Pilgrim founder. And to achieve this without interruptions, she did what she did best: scare away customers. With her unique charm, she cleared people out of her path, opening up space to explore the area without distractions. This time, she wasn't alone. Eugene, now her investigation partner, accompanied her every step of the way, sharing the excitement of uncovering Jericho's hidden secrets. Once again, Wednesday showed the Pilgrim boys that when it comes to discovering buried truths, no one compares to her. Wednesday and Eugene decided to infiltrate a forbidden and mysterious place, the museum dedicated to the life of Joseph Crackstone. There, among ancient objects and dusty documents, Wednesday found an important clue. Among the artifacts, she discovered an old religious temple, a place mentioned in a mysterious Book of Shadows. The curious detail was that the original book had been stolen many years ago, but in a time-worn painting, Wednesday recognized the girl from her visions. Even though she was discovered and thrown out of the museum, it didn't stop her investigation. Alongside her loyal friend Thing, she set off toward the abandoned temple. Upon arriving, she noticed the place seemed deserted, except for a homeless man who was camping out there. With Thing's help, they managed to get him to leave, ensuring the place was clear for exploration. However, the search inside the temple didn't yield many results, at least not until Wednesday touched the rusty door. At the exact moment her fingers brushed against the rough wood, a new vision flooded her mind. She saw Goody Adams, Adams, her ancestor, being hunted by Joseph Crackstone, who accused her of witchcraft. The scenes were disturbing. Joseph led a violent hunt, setting fire to the ancient inhabitants of Jericho, including the remaining members of the Adams family. However, Goody Adams managed to escape the flames, surviving the cruel attempt at extermination. And now, with all this new information, Wednesday finally understood what had happened in the past and how it was all connected to the mysteries of Jericho. When Wednesday's vision faded, something unexpected happened. In front of her, a monster appeared, a dark and menacing creature. But the most surprising part was that in the blink of an eye, the creature transformed into a human. Without hesitation, Wednesday ran after him, determined to unravel that mystery. However, before she could catch up, Xavier Thorpe appeared unexpectedly. Still catching her breath, Wednesday told him everything she had just witnessed: the monster, the transformation, and the connection to Joseph Crackstone. But as if the universe was conspiring against her, a sudden downpour began to fall, washing away all traces of the creature and taking with it any concrete evidence of what she had seen. Once again, Wednesday's words sounded like ramblings to those who listened, but to her there was no doubt. Joseph Crackstone was her enemy, not just hers, but of her entire family. Even reduced to a bronze statue in Jericho, his dark presence continued to haunt the Adams, and Wednesday knew she had to find a way to end that cursed legacy. Determined to avenge the unjust hunt of Goody Adams at the hands of Joseph Crackstone, Wednesday decided to leave her mark on Jericho in a way that no one would forget anytime soon. During a public event, she traced a long line of gunpowder through the streets of the town. When everything was set, her accomplice, Thing, with that cold and determined look, lit the fuse in front of everyone. The fire followed the traced path, creating a spectacle of flames that cut through the heart of Jericho. The townspeople watched in terror, including the mayor himself, who turned pale with fear at the sight. Meanwhile, amid the chaos of the flames, Wednesday simply observed with satisfaction, playing her cello as if it were the perfect soundtrack to that moment of vengeance. After the incident, Principal Larissa was furious. Even without concrete evidence, she knew that Wednesday was involved somehow. Suspicions lingered in the air, but nothing could be confirmed. And once again, Wednesday escaped unscathed, leaving only the trail of her bold and mysterious actions behind. At the end of the episode, the mysteries began to pile up, leaving a tense atmosphere hanging in the air. It all started with the monster's attack on the homeless man, who by pure coincidence was carrying a camera. Amid the chaos, the flash went off, capturing images of the creature and offering a rare glimpse of its monstrous form. Meanwhile, another mystery emerged within the halls of Nevermore. Professor Marilyn, who always seemed to know the secrets of the school quite well, appeared completely lost while trying to find the way to the secret room. This raised suspicions about what she truly knew, or was hiding, about the mysteries of that place. In parallel, Ajax was getting ready for a date with Enid, something she had been eagerly anticipating. However, things did not go as planned. Being a Gorgon, Ajax accidentally looked at his own reflection in the mirror, turning himself to stone, even if just temporarily. The missed date left Enid frustrated and full of questions, while Ajax remained petrified, quite literally. Every piece of this puzzle seemed to connect, but the answers were still far from being found. For Wednesday, these events only reinforced the idea that there was much more going on in Jericho than anyone could imagine. As events unfolded, the list of suspects for who could be the monster began to grow at Nevermore. Therapist Valerie, with her enigmatic behavior, started to be viewed with suspicion. Enid, with her sharp claws and surprising strength, also made the list, as did Tyler, who always seemed to be in the wrong place at the right time. But perhaps the most intriguing of all was Xavier Thorpe. He suddenly showed up with a strange wound on his neck, something Wednesday couldn't ignore. The mark raised immediate suspicions. Meanwhile, the sheriff was moving forward with his investigation. While analyzing the scene of the last attack, he finally managed to get concrete evidence. The photos taken by the homeless man's camera captured the monster's face with clarity, bringing new life to the case. Wednesday decides to head to the morgue to investigate the body up close. Upon arriving, she notices something strange. The corpse was missing its left foot. However, before she could examine it further, she hears the footsteps of the sheriff and the coroner approaching. With nowhere to hide, she quickly conceals herself, listening carefully to their conversation. The coroner mentions that the killer had surgically removed body parts, and the missing foot was stored in a refrigerator right there. As soon as the sheriff leaves the room, Wednesday finds herself in a tricky situation. The coroner decides to check the drawers and almost discovers her. But to avoid getting caught, she disguises herself as a corpse, lying completely still in one of the morgue drawers. To her surprise, the coroner opts to leave the autopsy for the next day and leaves. After discovering the photos of the victims, Wednesday wastes no time and goes straight to show them to Enid. The images revealed something disturbing. The person responsible for the attacks was removing body parts surgically. However, that revelation didn't sit well with Enid. As soon as her eyes landed on one of the pictures, the impact was so intense that she fainted on the spot, leaving Wednesday alone to process those macabre details. During another botany class, Wednesday noticed something odd on Xavier's neck, scratches that looked very recent. That sparked her curiosity, and she began connecting the dots, finding it all very suspicious. Determined to dig deeper, she decided to search Xavier's art studio. While exploring the space, she stumbled upon something surprising: multiple paintings depicting the exact monster that, until recently, Xavier claimed didn't exist. To avoid raising suspicion and simultaneously try to learn more about the potential serial killer, Wednesday made an unexpected move. For the first time in her life, she invited Xavier to a party. And it wasn't just any party, it was the Raven, a traditional Nevermore event. With the invitation already made, Wednesday realized she would need the right outfit for the party. But before worrying about her look, she decided to speak with the sheriff, as she was becoming increasingly convinced that she had a prime suspect in mind. During their conversation, she mentioned the photo of the monster that the sheriff had in his possession, suggesting that if they worked together, they might be able to reach some conclusions. However, the sheriff remained skeptical, making it clear that he needed more concrete evidence to take her claims seriously. For him, suspicions and theories weren't enough. He needed something solid for the case to truly progress. Even so, Wednesday was not discouraged. She knew she was on the right path. She just needed to find the missing piece to prove it. Wednesday still managed to capture the attention of some boys, among them Tyler, who believed there was a special connection between them. However, Wednesday didn't take long to make it clear that her priorities were very different. With her typical dark honesty, she explained that she was far more focused on hunting monsters than any sort of romance. Shortly after, Eugene revealed an important discovery to Wednesday. He had found a cave that supposedly could be the monster's hideout. Intrigued, she decided to accompany him to the location, and there they found unsettling clues: a sharp claw and chains, suggesting that something dangerous really lived there. With this new information, Wednesday came up with a plan. She needed a DNA sample from Xavier to compare with the claw they found. To do this, she decided to create a distraction, taking advantage of the Raven dance to try to get a bit of his blood. However, during her attempt in Xavier's art studio, he caught her red-handed. The situation quickly escalated into a heated argument, where Xavier ended up discovering that the invitation to the dance was nothing more than a pretext to distract him. Meanwhile, the sheriff kept insisting on concrete evidence to move the investigation forward. Determined to convince him, Wednesday presented everything she had collected so far, stating that the only thing missing was a DNA test to confirm if Xavier was really responsible. Even though he wasn't exactly a fan of Wednesday, the sheriff began to consider the idea, and surprisingly, the two started working together to solve the mystery. With that, Wednesday decided she wouldn't be going to the dance. Instead, she planned with Eugene to set up a stakeout at the monster's possible hideout, determined to find more evidence. However, she hadn't counted on Things Cunning, who had prepared a completely different plan. Wanting Wednesday to have a moment of fun, or perhaps just to stir up some good shows, he arranged for Tyler to take her to the dance. Not stopping there, Thing even stole a dress to ensure she was properly dressed for the party. Against all odds, Wednesday found herself on the verge of socializing, something that was far from her plans. When Wednesday finally arrived at the party, wearing the dress that Thing had arranged for her, her entrance was nothing short of triumphant. All eyes turned to her, surprised to see her so different from her usual self. Even Xavier couldn't hide his discomfort, showing a hint of jealousy. He approached her and, without hesitation, told Wednesday that Tyler wasn't a good person, hinting that she should be careful. Meanwhile, far from the buzz of the party, Eugene, despite Wednesday's insistent warnings not to act alone, decided to go through with his plan. Determined to find more clues, he set up a stakeout at the cave, waiting to catch any sign of the monster. However, the highlight of the party was undoubtedly Wednesday's unexpected dance. Her unique and striking style caught everyone's attention, with hypnotizing and unconventional moves that seemed to blend mystery and attitude in every step. The performance didn't just leave everyone speechless, it also made Xavier's jealousy flare up even more. He watched from a distance, clearly bothered by the closeness between Wednesday and Tyler. For a brief moment, that scene shattered all the tension surrounding the mysteries and investigations, reminding everyone that, deep down, they were just teenagers trying to live their moments, even if those moments were filled with strangeness, and rivalries. While the party carried on in full swing, the mayor's son, with his typical air of superiority, was plotting a scheme to humiliate all the so-called outcasts of the school. At the same time, far from the music and lights of the party, Eugene remained on his stakeout at the cave, alert to any movement. However, what he witnessed left him in shock. Someone had set fire to the place, turning the cave into a real crime scene cleanup. Panic took over, and Eugene, without a second thought, bolted out of there. Back at the dance, emotions were running high as Wednesday, and Bianca found themselves in a rare moment of conversation about feelings. It was something unusual for Wednesday, but surprisingly, the two seemed to be understanding each other in an almost unexpected way. Maybe it was the party's atmosphere, or perhaps just the right moment to set aside rivalries, but for an instant, the conversation flowed genuinely. As the party was nearing its end, the boys' malicious plan was finally set in motion, a scene reminiscent of the iconic moment in Carrie. Suddenly, the fire alarm was triggered, and the sprinklers sprayed red liquid all over the dance floor, covering the guests from head to toe. At first, everyone thought it was real blood, but Wednesday quickly realized it was just paint. Unlike the others, she actually found the prank quite brilliant, even enjoying the chaos it caused. However, the fun didn't last long. In the midst of all the chaos, Wednesday was struck by a new vision. She saw Eugene running in panic through the forest, clearly in danger, without a second thought. Her vision wasn't wrong. Eugene was indeed in trouble. The monster they had been searching for was after him, chasing him relentlessly. When Wednesday arrived, the situation only grew more intense, and what seemed like a mere coincidence quickly turned into a new mystery. Out of nowhere, Professor Marilyn appeared, showing up right at the moment Eugene had just been attacked. To Wednesday, this was more than suspicious, and from that moment on, Marilyn became her prime suspect. At the beginning of the 5th episode, Wednesday decided to dig deeper into her family's past and read through Gomez's criminal record. To her surprise, she discovered a record of a murder that took place in 1990. What was even more curious was that the only witness to the crime was none other than Principal Larissa, who had revealed to the sheriff that she had witnessed everything. According to the reports, the crime was supposedly triggered by Morticia after an intense argument. The cause of the conflict? A love triangle. However, something about that story didn't quite add up. With each page she turned, Wednesday felt there were more secrets hidden, and the main one was that Gomez seemed to be withholding something about that fateful day. To Wednesday, this was just the beginning of a much larger mystery. Then came the long-awaited family weekend at Nevermore, and of course, the Addams family made their grand entrance to the school, bringing that dark and peculiar aura that only they could have. Fortunately for Wednesday, Eugene had only been injured, and she now hoped for his recovery, staying firm in her mission to discover the truth behind the attacks. While for any ordinary family, being hunted, haunted, and even targeted for attempted murder would be an unimaginable nightmare. For the Addams, it was practically a reason to celebrate. For them, all this pursuit and mystery were just another thrilling chapter in their unconventional lives. After all, danger and chaos were practically synonyms for fun in this unique family. Once again, Wednesday became the target of criticism for her difficulty in socializing at Nevermore. Principal Larissa, who had been keeping an eye on her progress, or lack thereof, in therapy sessions, decided to take more drastic action. She called Gomez and Morticia to participate in the upcoming sessions alongside Wednesday, believing that the presence of her parents might help in some way. However, this decision brought an even bigger problem: the involvement of Sheriff Galpin. He harbored a deep hatred for Gomez, firmly believing that he was a murderer who had gotten away with it in Jericho. The first family therapy session with the Addams barely began before it ended abruptly. In less than 5 minutes, Wednesday interrupted the main discussion and, without any hesitation, laid all her cards on the table. She revealed that she had discovered her father's police file and demanded to know who Garrett Gates was, the man for whom Gomez had been accused of murder. The revelation left Morticia furious. She stood up indignantly, declaring that Gomez had been acquitted back in the 90s and that the case was closed. But Wednesday wasn't so easily convinced. To her, there was more to that story than her parents were letting on, and the suspicion that Morticia was hiding something only grew stronger. Determined, she promised herself that she would uncover the whole truth, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, a dangerous secret about Bianca began to surface. Few people knew, but she had used her siren song to gain acceptance at Nevermore. However, her mother, a woman shrouded in mystery and control, suddenly appeared, delivering an ultimatum. Bianca had a deadline to say her goodbyes and leave the school. Otherwise, her mother threatened to reveal the entire secret to Principal Weems, which would undoubtedly jeopardize her place at Nevermore. At the same time, the police found themselves trapped in a maze of uncertainties. The coroner from the morgue had taken his own life, leaving behind a revealing letter. In the note, he confessed to feeling deep guilt for having falsified the report of an old case. case, the very case of Garrett Gates. The revelation hit Sheriff Galpin like a bombshell, finally giving him exactly what he needed to arrest Gomez Addams. The news spread quickly, and the sheriff wasted no time in taking action. For him, this was the perfect opportunity to accomplish something he had wanted for years, putting Gomez behind bars. However, Morticia also seemed to be hiding a dark secret related to Garrett Gates, something that clearly troubled the couple. Even so, the two decided, in a silent agreement, not to tell Wednesday anything. That decision, however, did not stop the inevitable. Gomez Addams was finally arrested under the accusation of murdering Garrett Gates, a moment the sheriff had been waiting for a long time. For him, it was as if justice had finally taken a step forward, while for the Addams family, the mystery only grew deeper. With Gomez now behind bars, Wednesday finally got the opportunity to uncover the truth about what really happened that fateful night in 1990. During her visit to the prison, Gomez decided to come clean and tell his daughter everything. He explained that Garrett Gates was obsessed with Morticia. According to Gomez, Garrett had mistaken kindness for love, something he considered typical of men. However, this passion quickly turned into a dangerous obsession, to the point where Garrett wanted to eliminate Gomez to win Morticia's heart. On the day of the festival, the tension reached its breaking point, and Garrett confronted Gomez armed with a sword. What was supposed to be a simple argument quickly escalated into a deadly fight. In an act of survival, Gomez fought back. Although it was an accident, his instinct to protect Morticia resulted in Garrett's death, and it was precisely at that moment that Larissa appeared, witnessing everything and placing the entire blame on Gomez. As she listened to the story, Wednesday observed every expression and gesture of her father. She knew him too well not to notice when he was lying, and this time, she knew he was telling the truth. With a firm and determined look, Wednesday thanked her father for teaching her to be strong and independent, for showing her the importance of facing a world full of injustice and prejudice without ever forgetting who she truly was, an Addams.
Gracias, Wednesday.
For the sheriff, there was no doubt Gomez Addams was the true murderer, and his conviction wasn't limited to the case of Garrett Gates. In his eyes, Gomez was also responsible for the fate of Garrett's entire family, who tragically took their own lives after the young man's death. To the sheriff, the Addams were to blame for the entire tragedy, and he was determined to keep Gomez locked up. Meanwhile, Wednesday tried to process all the information. In a classic Addams moment, she and her brother decided to go fishing at the lake, but of course in the family's peculiar style, with grenades, a tradition taught by their father. Among the explosions and their dark sense of fun, an idea began to take shape in Wednesday's mind. As she watched the murky waters calm after the explosions, she realized something crystal clear. If anyone could get Gomez out of prison, it was her. Determined and unafraid of danger, Wednesday decided she would do whatever it took to prove her father's innocence and uncover the truth behind the entire story. Meanwhile, Morticia found herself in her secret room at the Nightshade Society, a place that held not only ancient objects, but also secrets of the past. It was there that she finally revealed the complete truth about that night in 1990. According to Morticia, Gomez had only told half the story. In reality, during the fight, it wasn't Gomez who drove the sword into Garrett's stomach, it was Morticia herself. However, in an act of love and protection, Gomez quickly grabbed the sword from her hands, choosing to take the blame to shield Morticia from any conviction or prison time. For him, taking responsibility was a testament to his unconditional love. But Morticia had always known that one day, that secret would come back to haunt the Addams family. Additionally, Morticia remembered a crucial detail. Garrett had been completely out of his mind that night. He was foaming with rage, and his pupils were dilated, clear signs that something strange was going on. To find out what was really happening, the only option was to exhume the body and examine the corpse. Determined to unravel the mystery once and for all, Wednesday and Morticia decided to head to the cemetery that very night. However, as they found the coffin and began digging up the body, they were caught red-handed and ended up in jail. For Wednesday, the worst part wasn't being behind bars. It was having to endure her parents exchanging loving glances even from behind the iron bars, completely incapable of staying apart. But Wednesday, with her quick wit, seized the moment to investigate up close. She managed to take Garrett Gates's finger and immediately noticed something crucial. Just by touching it, she discovered that Garrett had been poisoned with belladonna before he was even stabbed. This proved that neither Gomez nor Morticia were responsible for his death. At that moment, Wednesday had a new vision. She saw Garrett with a vial of poison in his pocket, a vial that ended up breaking during the fight. Garrett's intention was to use the poison to kill all the outcasts at the festival, but in the end, he died from his own trap. With this discovery, the Addams family's innocence became clear, revealing that the entire tragedy was caused by Garrett's obsession and madness, not by any crime committed by Gomez or Morticia. The sequence of events was direct and impactful. With the new evidence in hand, Wednesday and Morticia decided to confront the mayor, who, at the time of Garrett Gates's murder, was the sheriff. Knowing the whole truth, he had conspired to unjustly imprison Gomez, covering up evidence and manipulating the case. Now, cornered by the facts, the mayor found himself trapped. Exposing the truth would not only cost him his seat as mayor, but also lead to criminal charges for conspiracy. With few options left, he gave in to the pressure. Gomez Addams was released from prison, and the mayor revealed the whole truth to Sheriff Galpin. Although reluctant, Galpin found himself forced to apologize to Gomez. For him, it was like swallowing thorns, but there was no other way out. The most surprising part was that all of this happened in a single day, a twist truly worthy of the Addams family. After the storm passed, the relationship within the Addams family changed, for better or worse, depending on one's perspective. But for Wednesday, it was just another mystery solved and new challenges on the horizon, and those challenges didn't take long to appear. Investigating on her own, Wednesday discovered that Larissa was, in fact, a shapeshifter, and more than that, she had used her abilities to cover up Rowan's death. When confronted by Wednesday, Larissa revealed that her intention wasn't to hide a crime, but to protect Wednesday and the entire Nevermore Academy. However, the calm didn't last long. A new threat emerged, this time involving the entire school. A dark message announced that fire will rain from the sky, casting a new shadow of mystery over Wednesday and her friends. Wednesday intensified the use of her psychic abilities to try to solve the case as quickly as possible. However, the task wasn't easy, especially with the relentless energy of her roommate, Enid, who always seemed to be running at full speed. Amidst this search, Wednesday was drawn once again to the mysterious crypt of Joseph Crackstone. But to her surprise, when she arrived, she found out that it was nothing more than a surprise party organized by her friends to celebrate her 16th birthday. Something that obviously wasn't exciting for her at all, given her lifelong disdain for celebrations and surprises. The mastermind behind the entire party was Thing, who planned every detail. During the celebration, Wednesday stumbled upon a new clue related to the phrase "burned on the school walls." Shortly after, another vision manifested, revealing details about Goody Addams. The mysterious figure spoke through riddles, and Wednesday realized that it was connected to the Addams family bloodline in a much deeper way than she had imagined. During the birthday party, Wednesday received some gifts, both from her family and from Enid, who did her best to make her happy. However, for Wednesday, birthdays had always been an opportunity to create chows, something she did with pleasure during her childhood. But in that town, it didn't seem to have the same thrill. In one of her visits to the coffee shop, Wednesday showed off her talent for giving Tyler the cold shoulder as he tried unsuccessfully to invite her out to dinner. But, as always, she had only one focus: solving the case as quickly as possible. And it wasn't just Tyler who showed interest in her. Xavier also seemed enchanted, so much so that he even painted a beautiful portrait of Wednesday playing the cello. He even admitted that he couldn't get her out of his head, something that, for Wednesday, was at the very least strange. But, as expected, she managed to push both of them away without much effort. Later, Wednesday once again found herself standing in front of the mysterious gate, which actually belonged to the Gates mansion. Coincidentally, the mayor was also there, holding an obituary he had received. He entered the house, asked to use the phone, and called the sheriff, seemingly having discovered something important about the entire mystery. Always quick-witted, Wednesday swiftly found a way to sneak into the mayor's car to follow what was happening. However, when they arrived at the cafe, where the mayor intended to reveal the whole truth to the sheriff, something unexpected occurred. Even in a town where traffic was practically non-existent, the mayor was hit by a car right in front of the establishment before he could even reach the door. Once again, Wednesday found herself entangled in the case, but after giving her statement to the sheriff, she returned to Nevermore. There, Principal Larissa made it clear that she would no longer tolerate sudden outings. Wednesday was officially banned from leaving the campus until further notice, and the entire school went into lockdown. Shortly after, Wednesday shut down any attempts at connection from Professor Marilyn, who tried unsuccessfully to create some kind of bond. For Wednesday, she already had enough problems dealing with the tumultuous relationships around her. Still determined to continue her investigation, she decided to accept Tyler's invitation for dinner. To leave her room without raising suspicion, she told Enid they could have a girls' night, but it was all just a well-crafted plan for them to investigate the Gates mansion. Upon arriving at the location, the first discovery was shocking. The car that had run over the mayor was there. Furthermore, they found a photo of the Gates family, where everyone seemed to be dead, yet there was still something suspicious in the air. Exploring the mansion's library, the two ended up finding a secret passage that led to a dark altar where Mr. Gates was worshipped. The candles, which had been recently extinguished, suggested that someone was still visiting that place. Moving forward, the two discovered a perfectly arranged room belonging to Laura Gates. Everything was in place as if she were still alive, which only heightened their suspicions. However, the eerie atmosphere was abruptly interrupted by the the arrival of the monster. Quickly, Wednesday and Enid hid to avoid being attacked. Even so, the creature cornered them, forcing them into the basement. There, they stumbled upon something even more disturbing: body parts, all carefully removed by the monster, forming part of a larger plan that Wednesday was desperately trying to piece together. However, this time, the monster reappeared, and they narrowly escaped capture. Right after, something unexpected happened. Tyler was attacked, and to everyone's surprise, Xavier appeared at the scene, which only made things even more suspicious. When the sheriff heard about the incident, his reaction was one of total disbelief. Not only did he refuse to believe Wednesday's version of events, but he was also furious. When they arrived at the Gates mansion, everything had been completely cleaned up. The room was pristine, the Cadillac had vanished, and there was no trace of the basement. Any evidence related to the case had simply disappeared. Back at Nevermore, Wednesday nearly got expelled because of the events. The only thing that saved her was Principal Larissa's insistence on keeping the school running. In her room, tensions escalated when Enid confronted Wednesday, accusing her of only thinking about herself and being terrible at maintaining friendships. The atmosphere grew heavy, and Enid decided to move out, leaving Wednesday alone in the room. Normally, isolation would be perfect for her, but this time, the emptiness felt different. It was a discomfort she had never experienced before. That's when Wednesday realized she had kept something important: Laura Gates's music box. Upon opening it, she found several photos of herself, all taken without her knowledge. It was clear proof that the killer had been watching her closely, and that everything was connected in a sinister way. Meanwhile, the mayor seemed to have uncovered something crucial about who was behind everything. But before he could reveal it, he was mysteriously silenced. Yet, nothing could shake Wednesday's determination. On the contrary, this only fueled her drive even more to put an end to the mystery once and for all. Her resolve hardened and buried beneath layers of secrets that she was ready to tear apart. Everything began with the mayor's funeral, and although Wednesday loved a good funeral, she knew that moment held more than just farewells. The killer was close, and for her, everyone there was a suspect. During the ceremony, a mysterious figure appeared, and without a second thought, Wednesday chased after them, determined to discover who it was. To her surprise, it was someone very familiar: her Uncle Fester Adams. With his eccentric and unconventional ways, Fester not only brought joy to Wednesday, a rare sight, but also proved to be extremely useful. She told him everything about the murder and the clues she had gathered so far, and he immediately recognized the creature, a Hyde. Just like the legendary Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He mentioned that he had encountered a Hyde during his time in Zurich prison, a woman who transformed into a monster and decimated an entire audience. According to Fester, most of these creatures were never even seen at Nevermore, and their transformations seemed to be linked to some kind of alternate consciousness. But Fester knew something more. There was a journal hidden in the Nightshade Society that contained crucial information about these creatures. They planned to investigate together that very night, but with one condition: Fester needed to remain hidden. Meanwhile, Wednesday was embracing her solitary life in the dorm, as her former roommate Enid was still distant after their fight. With no distractions, she nearly finished her book, even though the weight of solitude lingered. Her friendship with Enid seemed more fractured than ever, but Wednesday, as always, stayed firm on her dark and determined path. In the secret room of the Nightshade Society, Wednesday ran into Xavier Thorpe. To her, at that moment, he was the main suspect of being the monster. Not only did he sketch creatures that eerily resembled the Hyde, but Xavier was present at every location where the attacks took place. Wednesday had a theory. The monster didn't attack her because somehow it liked her. And the fact that Xavier left without offering any explanation only made her suspicions grow. Throughout the entire conversation between the two, Uncle Fester, always sharp and cunning, listened in silence, hidden in the shadows. After searching for some time, with the ever-loyal Thing's help, they finally found the long-sought journal. What they discovered within its pages was revealing. Hydes could be activated in two ways: chemical induction or hypnosis. And whoever triggered that transformation became the master of the monster. For Wednesday, this meant that finding both the Hyde and its master was the key to solving the mystery. Determined to prove her theory that Xavier was the monster, she teamed up with Uncle Fester to put a plan into action. Using an improvised tracker and a not-so-discreet motorcycle, they set off in search of Xavier. And to Wednesday's surprise, her suspicions seemed to be confirmed when she saw him meeting with Dr. Valerie, his therapist. This raised a huge red flag for Wednesday, who began to consider the possibility that Xavier was being hypnotized. Additionally, a new hypothesis began forming in her mind. What if the monster was actually Laura Gates? The pieces were starting to fit together, but the mystery was far from being solved. When Wednesday tried to explain her suspicions to Principal Larissa, she encountered an unexpected unexpected problem. Dr. Valerie was already in the office, chatting with the principal. This caused the conversation to take a completely different turn, and, surprisingly, Wednesday found herself agreeing to participate in hypnotherapy sessions to unlock her inner self. The therapist seemed visibly thrilled with the idea, and they scheduled the first session for the upcoming Monday. For now, Wednesday decided to put her urgent concerns aside, even if it went against her very nature. During this time, new information surfaced. Her Uncle Fester became a wanted man, suspected of robbing a bank. And to complicate matters further, Wednesday also had to fulfill a commitment, a date with Tyler, even though the idea of a romantic date wasn't exactly her idea of fun. During the date, Tyler decided to surprise her with a rather unconventional setting, Joseph Crackstone's crypt. He tried to create an atmosphere that, for most people, would be terrifying. But for Wednesday, it was practically a dream. Amid dark conversations and acidic laughs, Tyler made it clear that he wanted to be more than just friends. The tension grew, and just as the two were about to kiss, the sheriff appeared out of nowhere, interrupting the moment. For Wednesday, it was almost a relief. The integrity of the Addams family remained intact, at least for now. Upon returning to her room, Wednesday was met with a chaotic scene. Everything was overturned as if a storm had blown through. Amidst the mess, she found Thing gravely injured, with stab marks all over his tiny hand. Desperation consumed her for a moment, but her Uncle Fester, with his electrical powers, quickly sprang into action. With dark threats that there would be serious consequences if Thing didn't survive, Fester applied electric shocks to the little hand. After a few jolts of energy, Thing finally sprang back to life, much to Wednesday's relief. Determined to understand what happened, Wednesday interrogated Thing, but discovered that the attack came from behind, preventing him from seeing who did it. Frustration grew, but she already had a plan in mind. Meanwhile, in the forest, the sheriff stumbled upon Uncle Fester's eccentric motorcycle. This put a target on his back, and Fester had no choice but to flee from Nevermore. During their farewell, he promised Wednesday that they would meet again, either in court or at the next family reunion, a typical Addams-style exit with a touch of macabre humor. Determined to seek answers, Wednesday decided to confront Principal Larissa once again. She accused her of knowing about the hide and hiding the truth. Larissa stuck to the same excuse, revealing the existence of the monster would destroy the school's reputation and bring an end to Nevermore. However, the clues led Wednesday down a different path, straight to her therapist's office. The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture was far from complete. When Wednesday confronted Dr. Valerie, she accused her of being Laura Gates, seeking revenge for the destruction of her family in Jericho. The theory made sense, but the suspicion quickly dissolved when, right after the confrontation, the monster appeared and attacked the therapist. This only deepened the mystery, leaving Wednesday with more questions than answers. Upon discovering that her therapist had been murdered, Wednesday wasn't shaken. On the contrary, her determination to capture the monster only grew stronger. Driven to follow her suspicions, she went to Xavier Thorpe's art studio. There, she found enough evidence to link each of the victims to the location. With this evidence in hand, the sheriff did not hesitate to arrest Xavier, accusing him of being the Hyde. Even as he pleaded his innocence, the evidence was damning, and doubts about his involvement in the crimes lingered in the air. Meanwhile, Enid returned to her old room, resuming her life with Wednesday. Her longing for Thing was the main reason for her return. Despite their friendship always being marked by strangeness and a certain emotional distance, to the point that they had never even hugged, they still managed to understand each other. Curious as always, Enid quickly began asking about Wednesday's date with Tyler. And even though the first date had been interrupted, Wednesday decided to schedule a second one to finally finish what they had started. On their new date, the mood was different. In a rare gesture, Wednesday decided to kiss Tyler. At the moment their lips met, a vision crashed through her mind like an electric shock. The truth revealed itself brutally. The Hyde monster had been Tyler all along. Desperate, she ran out of the coffee shop, shock written all over her face. As she sprinted through the streets, only one thought crossed her mind. Of course, the first boy she would ever kiss had to be a monster, a psychopath, and a serial killer. Maybe that really was her type, after all. With the truth finally revealed, Wednesday decided to confront Tyler. She arranged a meeting in the middle of the forest at night, where the shadows and silence seemed to conspire in her favor. Convinced that Dr. Valerie was the mastermind behind the Hyde, Wednesday knew she had to be prepared. To do so, she called on a few of Nevermore's outcasts to help her, including Bianca, who used her siren power to hypnotize Tyler and put him to sleep. With Tyler unconscious, they quickly chained him up, ensuring he wouldn't escape if he transformed. During the capture, Wednesday discovered a dark secret. Tyler's mother was also an outcast and a Hyde. This revelation only strengthened her suspicions about the connection between him and the therapist. Determined to understand more about the creature, Wednesday decided to wait and watch Tyler's transformation. However, the other outcasts showed fear. The dread of what might happen made them back away, and one by one they abandoned Wednesday alone in the forest. But she, as always, remained firm. There was no room for fear in her dark heart. With solitude as her only companion, Wednesday decided to take drastic measures. She remembered the countless times she had tortured her brother Pugsley in the name of family fun, and without hesitation, she began interrogating Tyler the same way. To her, it was just another intriguing experiment, a mystery to be unraveled to her way. Wednesday's situation took a dramatic turn for the worse when the same outcast who had helped her earlier decided to turn her into Principal Larissa. The plan quickly reached the sheriff's ears, and he arrived just in time to interrupt Wednesday before she could continue her rather unconventional interrogation on Tyler. The result? Once again, she was taken to the police station, but this time in a much more complicated situation. The evidence against her piled up, and the lines between hunter and hunted began to blur, leaving Wednesday more isolated than ever. No one seemed to believe Wednesday's claims about Tyler being the Hyde monster. The situation only worsened when, in a rare moment alone, Tyler seized the opportunity to taunt her. With a sinister look, he whispered that the worst was yet to come. The cynical smile on his face was proof enough for Wednesday. But to everyone else, it was nothing more than a delusion. That incident was the final straw for Principal Larissa, who decided to expel Wednesday from Nevermore for good. To her, the accusations against Tyler were absurd and unfounded, and Wednesday's presence only brought trouble to the school. Standing firm in her decision, Principal Larissa announced that Wednesday would be on the next train back home, with no chance of reconsideration. The news spread quickly, and Xavier, already shaken by the previous accusations, refused even to look at Wednesday, let alone help her. For him, the trust was completely shattered. Wednesday had no choice but to pack her things, and the imminent departure left Enid devastated. As eccentric and criminal as Wednesday might seem, the friendship between the two was real. Enid had found someone different from everyone else, someone who, despite all the darkness, cared about her and Thing. Before leaving, Wednesday discovered something unexpected. Bianca, her rival, actually respected her. In a rare moment of sincerity, Bianca admitted that, despite their differences, she admired Wednesday's courage and determination. In one final request, Wednesday asked to see Eugene, a gesture that revealed that, despite all her coldness, she still cared about those around her. It was a bittersweet farewell, one that left marks not just on Nevermore, but on Wednesday herself, as she prepared to leave the place that had brought her both chaos and clarity. With Eugene finally awake, Wednesday wasted no time in asking him about what he saw on the day of the explosion in the cave. He revealed a crucial clue. The person who set off the explosion was wearing red boots. That information set off an alarm in Wednesday's mind, and she quickly connected the dots. At the school, only one person wore red boots, Professor Marilyn. But the truth was even darker. Marilyn was actually Laura Gates in disguise. Determined to expose the entire plot, Wednesday confronted Marilyn and revealed that Tyler had told her everything, including about the monster. To prove her words, she brought Tyler along, and Wednesday's theory was confirmed right before the teacher's incredulous eyes. With no more masks to hide behind, Marilyn admitted everything. She revealed that she had used the cave to unleash the monster inside Tyler, turning him into her personal servant. With chilling calmness, Marilyn also confessed that she had sent Tyler to intercept Wednesday at the station, ensuring she wouldn't escape. However, Marilyn didn't account for one small detail. The Tyler standing beside Wednesday was actually Principal Larissa in disguise. In a surprising move, Larissa revealed herself, unmasking the murderous teacher. But Marilyn did not surrender easily. Without hesitation, she applied belladonna poison to Larissa, who collapsed instantly. Cold and calculated, Marilyn then attacked Wednesday, putting her to sleep as well. The plot was unraveling, but darkness still hung heavily over Nevermore. And thanks to the loyalty of her friends, Enid, Ajax, and Eugene, the information Thing provided reached them quickly. United and determined, the three set off to find Wednesday, proving that despite her dark nature, she had true friends willing to risk everything to save her. Wednesday was taken to Joseph Crackstone's crypt, the dark and ancestral place where Marilyn's plan would finally be realized. There, everything began to make sense. Tyler had been collecting body parts to be used in a resurrection ritual. These macabre ingredients, combined with the spells from the Black Book that Marilyn had stolen, were meant to bring Joseph Crackstone back to life. But the plan went even further. Marilyn, cold and calculating, wanted Wednesday to discover the truth on her own. To her, that would make the ritual even more special, as it required capturing her in a definitive way. The reason? Goody Adams, Wednesday's ancestor, had locked Joseph Crackstone away using a blood seal. Now, Wednesday's blood was the final key needed to release him, and the ritual had to be performed under the light of the blood moon. As Marilyn prepared the altar, the air grew heavier with the weight of dark magic. The symbols carved into the stone glowed with crimson light, and Tyler stood nearby, his eyes void of emotion, merely a pawn in Marilyn's twisted game. For Wednesday, time was running out, and the fate of Nevermore hung in the balance. Without mercy, Marilyn cut Wednesday's hand and forced her to touch the crypt. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Marilyn spoke the incantations from the Black Book, and Joseph Crackstone awakened amidst a shadowy, disturbing mist. His hollow eyes overflowed with hatred, and he immediately declared his vengeance against all the outcasts of Jericho. To him, Wednesday was the reincarnation of Goody Adams, a ghost from his past that needed to be eliminated. Without hesitation, he drove a blade into Wednesday's abdomen before setting off to fulfill his dark mission. Meanwhile, Enid, along with Ajax, finally discovered the secret society. At first, she felt hurt for not being invited earlier, but the priority was clear: save Wednesday and all the outcasts. With the help of the Scales, they decided to use the Siren Song to alert everyone at Nevermore of the imminent threat of Joseph Crackstone. Back in the crypt, Wednesday found herself teetering between life and death, but she was visited by the apparition of Goody Adams. Her ancestor revealed the secret to destroying Joseph Crackstone. He could only be defeated if his heart was pierced. Furthermore, Goody Adams explained that she could heal Wednesday's wound, but it would come at a price. It would be the last time she would ever see her. With few options, Wednesday accepted. With a precise movement, Wednesday stabbed Joseph Crackstone's heart, ending his reign of terror once and for all. This episode marked not only the end of a great battle, but also a moment of transformation for many of the characters. Enid, after so many frustrated attempts, finally experienced her long-awaited transformation. Under the light of the Tim Moon, she revealed herself as a full-fledged werewolf, a moment that carried both power and profound significance for her. With Crackstone defeated and Marilyn's plot exposed, Nevermore was safe once again, but the scars of battle lingered. Wednesday knew that even with this victory, darkness was always lurking, and for her, that was just how she liked it. Meanwhile, in the forest, Wednesday came face to face with Tyler, who right before her eyes transformed into the monstrous Hyde. The confrontation seemed inevitable and deadly for Wednesday. But then Enid appeared, fully transformed into her werewolf form, ready to face Tyler head-on. The fight that followed was brutal and savage, a true clash of monsters. To everyone's surprise, Enid proved to be quicker and more resilient than the Hyde, managing to overpower him and leave him gravely wounded, all while the sheriff watched in disbelief. Enid's newfound strength and fierce determination showcased the true power she had hidden for so long. While the battle of beasts raged in the forest, Joseph Crackstone arrived at Nevermore with a single purpose: to destroy the school and eliminate all the outcasts. His arrival was a harbinger of destruction, and he wasted no time setting everything around him ablaze. Flames and chaos spread as he marched forward, determined to fulfill his twisted mission. Inside the school, Wednesday prepared to face Joseph. Even with Xavier trying to help by firing a well-aimed arrow, Joseph simply deflected it, revealing his superhuman strength. The showdown between Wednesday and Joseph was intense and bloody. She was skilled, but he was absurdly stronger, and with one powerful blow, he shattered Wednesday's sword, leaving her vulnerable. But fate was on her side. Just as Joseph prepared for the final strike, Bianca emerged, displaying her courage and determination. In one swift motion, she drove part of the broken sword into Joseph, distracting him just enough for Wednesday to seize her chance. With deadly precision, Wednesday pierced Joseph Crackstone's heart, ending his reign of terror once and for all. His body erupted into a shadowy mist, dissipating into the air, leaving nothing but silence and the heavy weight of victory. Nevermore was safe. Enid returned from the forest, battered but triumphant, solidifying her transformation not just as a werewolf, but as a true hero. Together, they had faced monsters and ancient evils, proving that even in the darkest of times, unity and determination could bring the light to the shadows. However, the battle was not yet over. Marilyn was still on the loose, determined to see her twisted plan through. But this time, Eugene revealed a hidden talento: his ability to control bees. With an immense swarm of bees at his command, he cornered Marilyn, creating the perfect opportunity for Wednesday to end it once and for all. In one precise move, Wednesday took down Marilyn, putting her to sleep and saving Nevermore for good. The victory was not just physical, but emotional as well. For the first time, Wednesday gave in to a hug from Enid, showing that despite all the darkness in her heart, she had forged real connections. With the semester coming to an end and classes officially over, everyone prepared to go back home. Before leaving, Xavier surprised Wednesday with an unexpected gift: a brand new smartphone, a gesture to bring her into the 21st century and perhaps to get a message from her every now and then. bed. But the journey home came with an unsettling surprise. While scrolling through her new phone, Wednesday received a strange message from a mysterious stalker threatening her. To make matters worse, Tyler, despite all the crimes he committed, was still out there. And Wednesday knew that even though the battles of this semester were over, the shadows always had a way of creeping back, and she would be ready. And now, has Wednesday finally found her place in the dark and intriguing world of Nevermore? After facing deadly mysteries, uncovering disturbing revelations about her own family, and discovering the true extent of her power, the young Addams proved that even amidst supernatural chaos, her sharp mind and morbid humor are unbeatable. But have the secrets truly ended, or are new dangers just beginning to emerge from the shadows? One thing is certain, we'll only know what awaits Wednesday's future when the second season of the series finally arrives, if it actually comes out. See you in the next videos.